how about we go over to France and talk to Roland? He, him. It sounds like you say that Catholicism is more reasonable than atheism. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that, I guess.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure
Yeah.
can.
Great, I'm so excited, guys. First, I wanted to say that I really enjoy your show. Just came across it very recently. I discovered it this week, actually. I watched some videos. I was
Fantastic.
very I was enjoying that a lot. So, thank you for the job you are doing. I think it's great. Just want to mention very quick that my kids are sleeping. If one of them wakes up, I'll have to
No
go
problem.
very quick. So
No worries.
feel free to just switch to the next
Yeah.
caller. If that happens. Okay, so there are maybe I went a bit too far when I said Catholicism. The things I'm going to try to defend are more about let's say I will take a broader definition of God as God being something that created the universe on purpose. Okay, can we agree on this definition of God? And then I'll try to defend the fact that this is a reasonable statement.
I can't agree on that
Yeah.
because the purpose aspect is bringing in a lot. If we take out the purpose, I could agree. It's just that for me, using the label God there is not only worthless but harmful, because we're adding on something that has all of this baggage, when in reality we have another term for this. We have a philosophical term called like a necessary being. And that could totally be something that has nothing to do with the deity, is completely 100% natural. People like Graham Oppy talk about this. So if you add the purpose, I definitely can't agree, because I don't know how we get to that. If you take off the purpose, I just think the label God is worthless at best and harmful at its worst. So.
Okay, what's the difference? What's the difference you're making between this necessary being and the notion of God? What way is God more specific than this necessary being?
So if what you're saying is, at the end of the day, that when you use the word God, when you use that term, what you're actually talking about is just whatever the heck it was that started off all of existence. I can say that there is probably something like that, right? We seem to have, in our local presentation of space-time, there seems to be kind of this beginning. So, okay, but then you're just kind of swapping out the word God with Big Bang, and that doesn't, it seems to me like we should use the thing that we have actually had some demonstration of, rather than just changing the word around, right, to just mean something totally different. Like I have an umbrella, you can get the little stick and you pull it up and then it stops the rain. I could call it a traffic cone. I just don't know what the fucking use of that would be. Like, that just seems to be more difficult than just saying it's a necessary being,
Okay, so just I was seeing this as maybe a first step, to get to get to believe to God as described by a religion, because I felt
Sure.
well listening to the show. What I understood is that the atheist vision of the world. In the atheist vision of the world, of the universe, there is no being that's purposefully created the world.
Well, not just even purpose. We don't even necessarily need to go that far. We could just stick at, we're just saying there isn't sufficient reason to accept that thing exists at all, right? The adding the purpose of that thing is an extra step that it just feels to me like, again, we haven't done the basic groundwork. And it sounds to me like, really, at the end of the day, you're just swapping out this God label because you like it better. But we're back to that traffic cone umbrella thing. Like, we can do whatever the hell we want with words. We can change them all we want. That's what they are. But at the end of the day, it is valuable that we have a word that describes a cup and a word that describes a car. because they're very different tangible objects that we utilize in very different ways. And even in this conception here, thinking about a Big Bang or a necessary being or God, all three of those things are a bit different. And it's worth parsing out those differences and not muddying the waters by just pulling in another label because it's been used a lot. You know, it's easy to fit God in that slot because God has always been poorly defined. It's not easy to fit the Big Bang into that God slot because the Big Bang has been pretty well defined. We've got a lot of really good evidence for it, you know? Does any of that make sense, or?
Yeah, it does. So you feel that demonstrating that there is this being so that created the world on purpose would not be enough, but can I just take it as a first step?
I mean,
or is it, or are you already convinced that it's the case?
Am I already convinced that what's the case? Just say it for me again. I'm sorry.
That the universe was created purposefully, on purpose?
No, I do not believe the universe was created purposefully. Okay. I do not believe that. So.
Okay, so this can be the start of the. I can try and demonstrate that this is a reasonable statement as the first.
Please.
Okay, so this was what I meant from the very beginning. Sorry for not being clear enough.
That's okay.
Okay, so as a preamble, I think that asking to people who believe in God to bring scientific or empirical proof of the existence of God is maybe unfair. It does not seem to me that science, which deals with, let's say, physics in a broader sense, helps us understand questions that transcend physics or are metaphysical questions. Do I make sense?
Kind of. Are you following along, Jim?
What questions do you mean? Do you mean like why the universe is created, or why the laws of physics appear to describe what happens?
That's what I felt like he was going.
Yeah, this type of questions, and maybe the point where I want to go to is that there, I think, a lot of things that are very dear to anyone, that are very important to you, that you believe without scientific evidence, and just because you have a reasonable amount of clues that make it a reasonable statement, but you don't necessarily need scientific evidence. And one example of that would be how can you, for example, how do your kids have a proof that you love them? How can you prove your kids you love them? Your kids believe that you love them first as a feeling, and then when they start thinking about it, they have a reasonable amount of.
We actually have an answer to that, to the love question, right? Because it comes up all the time. It's nothing new, and the answer is actions. Actions speak louder than words. And so it's how parents act towards their children. And also the other side of that from the child side is also trust that they're going to get fed, and trust that other things are going, that they're being taken care of to some degree. But actions are the only thing that we have to prove that anybody has any feelings towards us at all, whether it's love or hatred, indifference, or anything else. It's those actions. Can people fake those actions? Sure. But here's kind of the weird thing about that. The more you fake that kind of thing, right, the more you tell yourself the lie, the more likely you are to believe the lie. Yep. And that is simply a function of human psychology that we're all well aware of. Goering in World War II said that with the German propaganda. If you tell a lie often enough, everybody will believe it. And so it doesn't always happen that way, but it definitely happens often enough for it to be interesting. So that's the only thing that you have, is we have actual actions as evidence of whether or not somebody loves you. If somebody tells you they love you and you go and ask them for help, like, hey, can you drive me to the hospital? And they tell you no because they're got to do their hair or watch their favorite TV show, then you can assume that when they say they love you, they mean something very different than you thought they did. Now, if they say, no, I'm already in the hospital myself, or no, my car broke down, or no, good reasons, then you don't have any evidence one way or the other for that. So you've got evidence.
Yeah, and we poke people's brains every so often too, you know. Roland, we've done some really phenomenal studies that thank goodness I wasn't a part of, because I would have just radically, you know, messed them up probably. But we have so much knowledge, and even someone like you and I who are not a PhD in neuroscience, we can go out there and read these peer-reviewed studies, and we can listen to the individuals in the field who have spent 40 years doing it and understand their criticisms. Now, that doesn't mean I'm a PhD or you're a PhD, but we absolutely have this ability, right? And again, it kind of goes back to where we were with our last caller, where, yeah, like, we're not here telling you, Jim and I aren't here telling you we've got scientific empirical proof for absolutely everything we believe. No, I believe right now, I totally really don't have good reason to believe this. I believe when I go back to Tennessee, my house is still going to be there. Now, I don't know that it's there, right? But it has been there pretty much every time I've ever come back, and that's kind of good evidence for it. No, it's not perfect, but we don't have any of that for a deity. We don't have any of that for a god at all, and that's kind of where we're saying is the issue. Is
Right.
we have some really basic ground level stuff that we have to get through with this god thing, and if all we're doing at the end of the day is just saying like, well, yeah, you believe your girlfriend loves you, but she might not. It's like, yeah, but at least my girlfriend exists. Like, I see,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes, yes. Okay.
Right. We've proven it.
No, but that's pretty much where I wanted to go. Actually, I just wanted you to say that you don't need scientific or empirical evidence to believe everything that matters to you in life. That's just the point I wanted to make. Like,
Yeah, but I
course,
think
But-
I think there's a bit of a problem with that statement.
Yeah, when SR was talking about, you know, going back to Tennessee in his house, you'd have he is extrapolating from evidence that he has, and he's making an inductive argument, and so he has very good reasons. Now, if he was going back home to Mississippi, he might not have
Right.
those same types of inductive arguments to make, depending on where in Mississippi he lived, like, because they just had the tornadoes that ripped through there, causing so much damage. So to say that we don't have scientific evidence is true, but inductive arguments are also some of the strongest arguments that we have, and often they're the only arguments that we have.
Yeah.
So he does have scientific evidence, right? We have scientific evidence that houses tend to stay up unless forces tend to act on them, and he has no reason to believe any of those. So inductively, we do have that.
And Tennessee as a state exists in the United States, as much as, you know, even me may be bummed out by that fact. It's there. It does exist. Like, the road that leads up to my house is a real thing, you know. And the worry that I have when we get into that boat where we're like, well, we don't exactly need, you know, scientific evidence for every little thing we believe. Technically, that is true, right? But just like technically it's true that we have really not gotten sufficient reason to believe that other people exist, right?
Yeah,
but we
okay, no,
have to move
totally,
on.
yeah.
We have to be able to actually engage with each other and the world around us. And so we should be trying to get the best evidence that we can. But if we find ourselves in a boat that says, hey, we don't have good evidence for this, we now have to ask ourselves, of the other 3, 4, 5, however small that number is of assumptions that we have, does adding this assumption get us anything else? And if the answer is no, then we go with the least assumptions.
Right.
Okay, no, you don't have to elaborate that much. Actually, I definitely get your points.
Okay.
I agree with that, of course. So just to make, we do agree that in all those cases that you presented where we don't have scientific evidence of the thing we're talking about, we have a reasonable amount of clues that make us believe that the statement, like your house is still going to be there. Okay, so I definitely agree with that. The other case that I wanted to talk about was well,
Hey, that's Roland. That's okay. We got a couple of other good theists on the line. It looks like, and we do this stuff like every week. So definitely, just give us a call back. Think about it for the next few days, and give us a call back. And it may not be Jim and myself, but there are other really great hosts, and we're happy to take that call. So. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll take notes before the next call. So
that is actually a super great idea, Roland. And I suggest that for everybody. Like, it's even helpful for me. Like, it's nice to take little notes and just get your thoughts organized. So
yeah. And also remember, we do this all the time, and there aren't any new arguments anybody has ever presented to us in 27 years of doing this. And while I haven't been on for 27 years, I have studied the arguments, and there aren't any new ones. So, coming up with your own list of things that you want to talk about and clarifying your own thoughts definitely helps, because we've had some time to do this ourselves.
Yeah.
So.